The banquet hall hums with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft rustle of expensive dresses. I stand at the edge of it all, my champagne flute steady in my hand, watching my sister, radiant in white, twirl across the dance floor with her new husband. The fairy lights twinkle above, casting a warm glow over the guests, my family. They're friends, people who've known me my whole life, but none of them know what I'm about to do. None of them suspect the weight of the secret I carry tonight. Tucked away like a folded note in my purse, my name is Emily Harper, 32, a corporate strategist for a Fortune 500 company. I've spent years building a life no one in this room could have predicted, not my parents, not my sister, not the cousins who barely glance my way as they pass by with their plates of hors d'oeuvres. To them, I'm still the quiet one, the overlooked middle child who never quite fit into their spotlight. They don't see the woman who closed a multi-million-dollar deal last week, or the one who's been quietly reshaping her life, brick by brick, into something uncheckable. They don't see me at all. I take a sip of champagne, the bubbles sharp against my tongue, and scan the room. The head table sparkles with crystal and flowers, my sister's laughter ringing out like a bell. My seat, though? It's at the back. Table 17, wedged between a service door and a trash can half hidden by a potted plant. It's not an accident. It's a message, one I've received loud and clear my whole life. But tonight, that message will be rewritten. I set my glass down and smooth the front of my dress. A tailored, deep emerald member I chose not for flash, but for quiet confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't need to shout. My phone buzzes in my clutch, a text from the venue coordinator. All set, Miss Harper. Awaiting your signal. My lips curve into a small, private smile. I nod to myself, feeling the weight of the moment settle in my chest. This isn't about revenge. Not really. It's about reclamation. It's about standing in a truth so solid, no one can ignore it. The band shifts to a slower song, and I catch my mother's eye across the room. She offers a tight smile, the kind that says she's doing her duty by acknowledging me. My father's too busy talking to his golf buddy to notice. My sister, Jessica, doesn't even look my way. They think they know me, Emily, the one who fades into the background, who doesn't make waves. But tonight, I'm not here to fade. I'm here to change the story. In a few minutes, the venue manager will step up to the microphone. He'll make an announcement that will ripple through this room like a stone dropped in still water. And when he does, every head will turn. Every whispered judgment, every dismissive glance, every time they seated me at the edges of their lives will dissolve in the face of what I've done. I don't need their approval. I never did. But tonight, they'll see me. And they'll remember is the moment I've been building toward, not with anger, but with purpose. The truth is a quiet thing until it ice and single quotes 10 years ago, I was invisible. Not the kind of invisible where no one sees you at all, but the worst kind, where they see you, but choose to look through you. Growing up in the Harper family, I was the shadow in a house full of light. Jessica, my younger sister, was the sun golden-haired, charming, the one who could make a room laugh with a single quip. My older brother, Michael, was the heir apparent, destined for Dad's law firm, his every achievement framed on the living room wall. And me? I was Emily, the one who got good grades, stayed quiet, and never caused trouble. The one who didn't matter enough to notice. I was 22, fresh out of college with a degree in business, when the first cut came. It was Christmas dinner, the table groaning with Mom's rosemary roast and candied yams. Jessica, home from her gap. Year in Europe, was regaling everyone with stories of Paris and Rome. I waited for a pause, my heart pounding to share my news. I'd landed an internship at a top consulting firm in Chicago. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start of foot in the door of a world I'd dreamed of since high school. Pass the potatoes. Michael said, cutting me off before I could finish. Mom slid the bowl my way without looking up. I tried. Again. So, I got this internship. That's nice, honey, Mom said, her eyes still on Jessica. Jess, tell us about that cafe you mentioned, the one with the violinist. I swallowed the rest of my sentence, the words turning to ash in my mouth. Dad didn't even glance my way. He was too busy nodding at Michael's analysis of some court case. Jessica caught my eye for a split second, her smile apologetic but fleeting, before she launched into another story. I stared at my plate, the edges of my vision blurring. It wasn't just that they didn't care. It was that they didn't even think to care. That wasn't the only time. Family gatherings were a masterclass in erasure. At my cousin's graduation party, I overheard Aunt Linda ask Mom, "So, what's Emily up to these days?" Mom's response was a vague, "Oh, she's figuring things out." I was standing right there, a master's degree in progress, working late nights at a startup. But to her, I was still just figuring things out. The worst was Jessica's engagement party 2 years ago. I'd flown in from Chicago where I was climbing the ranks at my firm. I just led my first major project, a restructuring plan that saved a client millions. I was proud, ready to share, maybe even hoping for a nod of approval. Instead, I was seated at a folding table in the corner of the venue, next to a cousin's +1 who didn't know my name. Jessica's friends buzzed around her, their laughter bright and sharp. I tried to join a conversation, but Mom pulled me aside to ask if I could help with the coat check. "You're so good at organizing, Em," she said, like it was a compliment. I spent the night folding jackets while Jessica glowed in the center of the room. The slights piled up like stones. "Emily, you're so practical," Dad would say, as if ambition was a sin I'd been spared. "You don't need to outshine anyone," Mom once told me when I mentioned applying for a promotion. "Just be you." But being me to them meant being small, reliable, and visible. I'd lie awake at night, replaying those moments, the ache in my chest growing heavier with each one. It wasn't just about being overlooked. It was the assumption that I had nothing worth seeing, that I was less than. I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering if they were right. Maybe I was destined to be the supporting character in their stories. Never the lead in my own, but something shifted. I don't know when it happened, maybe the night I cried myself dry after that engagement party, or the morning I looked in the mirror and saw someone stronger than their dismissals. I decided I wasn't going to wait for their validation anymore. I'd build a life that spoke for itself. And I did, step by quiet step, in ways they'd never see coming. I stopped waiting for their applause. That was the first step. After years of trying to fit into the narrow space my family carved out for me, I realized something. Their approval wasn't the key to my worth. My worth was mine to build. So I got to work not loudly, not with fanfare, but with a quiet resolve that burned hotter than their indifference ever could. I was 24 when I moved to Chicago permanently, renting a tiny studio apartment with a leaky faucet and a view of a brick wall. The consulting firm where I interned offered me a full-time role junior analyst. Grunt work mostly, but I saw it for what it was. A crack in the door. I pushed through it. I stayed late, poring over spreadsheets while my colleagues grabbed drinks. I asked questions, took notes, learned the language of boardrooms and balance sheets. My first promotion came a year later, then another. By 27, I was leading projects, presenting to clients who hung on my every word. I didn't tell my family much about it. Not because I was hiding, but because they never asked. At Thanksgiving, when I mentioned a big pitch I'd won, Dad nodded absently and said, "That's great, Jess, how's the wedding planning going?" I'd smile, change the subject, and keep my victories to myself. They didn't need to. No, I was building something bigger than their validation dot by 30. I was a senior strategist at one of the top firms in the city. I negotiated deals that reshaped companies, sat across from CEOs who trusted my judgment, and built a reputation for being unshakably competent. I bought a condo downtown, nothing flashy, but it was mine, paid for with money I'd earned through late nights and relentless focus. I traveled for work, closing contracts in New York, London, Singapore. I mentored younger analysts, teaching them the same grit I'd learned. My life was full, purposeful, alive, but back home I was still just Emily. At family dinners, they'd talk over me, their voices a wall I couldn't breach. Jessica's wedding planning dominated every conversation her dress, her venue, her guest list. I'd listen, nodding, while they assumed I was still figuring things out. Once, Mom asked what I did at work, and when I started explaining a merger I'd helped to navigate, her eyes glazed over. "Sounds complicated," she said, then turned to Michael to ask about his latest case. I could have shouted my resume at them. $50 million in client savings, a corner office, a feature in a trade magazine, but it wouldn't have mattered. They didn't see me because they didn't want to. To them, I was the reliable one, the one who'd show up, help out, and fade back into the background. And for a long time, I let them think that. Not out of weakness, but because I was saving my energy for something bigger. 6 months ago, Jessica called me about her wedding. "It's going to be perfect," she gushed, describing the venue, a sprawling estate with chandeliers and manicured gardens. "But it's so expensive, we're stretching to afford it." I listened, my mind already turning. I didn't say much, just offered to help however I could. She laughed lightly. "Oh, Em, you're sweet, but we've got it covered. Just come and enjoy." I hung up, staring at my laptop where a wire transfer confirmation sat open. I'd just paid off the entire venue, every chandelier, every garden path, every glass of champagne they drank. Anonymously, of course. I didn't need the credit. Not yet. My rise wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. Every late night, every closed deal, every time I chose discipline over doubt, it was for me. But now, standing on the edge of Jessica's wedding, I knew the moment was coming. Not to gloat, not to wound, but to stand in the truth of who I'd become. They'd see it soon enough. The question wasn't whether they'd notice, it was whether they'd ever understand what it took. The music softens, and the room's chatter dips as the venue manager, a polished man in a crisp suit, steps up to the microphone. I'm still at table 17, the faint smell of the trash can lingering despite the floral arrangements. My champagne glass is empty now, resting on the tablecloth. I don't need it anymore. My hands are steady, my breath even. I've been waiting for this moment not with anger, but with a calm certainty that feels like gravity itself. "Ladies and gentlemen," the manager begins, his voice cutting through the hum of the crowd. "Before we continue with the festivities, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge someone very special." Heads turn, curious. Jessica, at the head table, tilts her head, her smile polite but puzzled. Mom and Dad exchange a glance, probably expecting a toast to the happy couple. My cousins at the next table whisper, their eyes scanning the room. They don't look at me. They never do. I stand, smoothing my emerald dress, and move toward the center of the room. My heels click softly on the polished floor, each step deliberate. I don't rush. I don't need to. The manager's gaze finds me, and he smiles a professional, knowing smile. "Tonight's celebration," he continues, "would not have been possible without the extraordinary generosity of one individual. Please join me in thanking Ms. Emily Harper, who graciously covered the cost of this entire venue." The room goes still. Not silent, there's still the faint clink of a glass, a muffled cough, but it's as if the air itself holds its breath. I feel every eye on me, a weight I've never carried before. Jessica's mouth parts slightly, her bouquet trembling in her hands. Mom's hand freezes halfway to her wine glass, her eyes wide, searching my face like she's seeing me for the first time. Dad's brow furrows, his fork paused midair. Michael, at the head table, leans forward, his lawyer's composure cracking just enough to show confusion. I don't smile. I don't gloat. I simply stand there, my posture straight, my expression calm. The manager gestures toward me, and a smattering of applause starts, hesitant at first, then growing. It's not the applause I'm here for. It's the shift when my cousin's +1 nudges her, whispering, "Wait, Emily?" The way Aunt Linda's head snaps toward Mom, her mouth forming a silent question. The way Jessica's maid of honor, who once laughed when I tripped at her sweet 16, now stares like she's recalculating everything she thought she knew. The manager continues, his voice warm but professional. Miss Harper's contribution has ensured that tonight is a night we'll all remember. Her leadership and generosity reflect the spirit of family and celebration we're here to honor. Leadership, generosity, words they've never associated with me. I catch Mom's eye again, and this time her smile is gone, replaced by something I can't quite name, shock, maybe, or the dawning of a realization she's not ready for. I nod to the manager, a small acknowledgement, and make my way back to my seat. The applause follows me, louder now, but it's background noise. I don't need their cheers. I didn't pay for this venue to win their praise. I did it because I could, because the girl they overlooked grew into a woman who could. Hold this moment in her hands and not flinch. As I sit, the band picks up again, and the room slowly returns to its rhythm. But it's different now. People steal glances at me, their conversations quieter, their curiosity palpable. Jessica's still staring, her expression a mix of gratitude and something else, guilt, maybe, or disbelief. Dad's talking to Mom. Now his gesture is sharp, like he's trying to solve a puzzle. I pick up my water glass, take a sip, and let the moment settle. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. And the truth is, I'm not invisible anymore. The reception rolls on, the dance floor filling with swaying couples and the clatter of dessert plates replacing dinner. I stay at table 17. The trash can still my silent companion, but the air feels different now, like the room is tilted slightly, and I'm no longer on the edges of it. People pass by, offering smiles or quick nods, their curiosity veiled but obvious. I keep my gaze steady, my hands folded in my lap, letting their glances slide off me. I don't owe them explanations. Not yet. Jessica finds me first. The band is playing a soft jazz number, and she weaves through the crowd, her white dress trailing like a comet's tail. She stops at my table, her face flushed from dancing or nerves or both. "Emily," she says, her voice low, almost a whisper. "Can we talk?" Her eyes are wide, searching, like she's trying to find the sister she thought she knew. I nod, standing, and we step outside to the garden patio, where the air is cool and the fairy lights cast long shadows. She fidgets with her veil and blurts, "Why didn't you tell me?" "About the venue, I mean. You pay for everything?" There's no accusation in her tone, just confusion and maybe a trace of hurt. "I wanted to help," I say simply, my voice even. "You said it was a stretch. I had the means." I don't mention the years of saving, the deals I closed, the life I built while she and the others looked the other way. "I don't need to." She shakes her head, her earrings catching the light. "But why didn't you say anything?" We wouldn't have." She trails off, glancing back toward the banquet hall, where our family is still mingling. I know what she's thinking. The table by the trash, the years of overlooking me. She doesn't say it, but it's there heavy between us. "I didn't need the credit," I say. "I did it for you, Jess, because you're my sister." My words are firm, not cold, but they carry a weight she feels. She looks down, her fingers twisting the edge of her dress. "I'm sorry," she says finally, her voice small. "I didn't know. I didn't realize how much you've..." She doesn't finish, but I understand. She's saying me. Now, maybe for the first time, and it's uncomfortable for her. I don't rush to fill the silence. I let it sit, let her feel the truth of it. Mom and Dad approach next, their steps hesitant as they join us on the patio. Mom's clutching her purse like it's an anchor, and Dad's tie is slightly loosened, his usual confidence muted. "Emily..." Mom starts, then stops, glancing at Dad. He clears his throat. "The manager told us," he says, his voice gruff. "About the payment, that was generous of you." There's a question in his tone, like he's trying to piece together how I could afford it. I don't offer details. I don't need to prove myself to them anymore. "I wanted tonight to be special," I say, meeting their eyes. "For Jess, for all of us." My words are calm, but there's steel beneath them. I'm not the girl who begged for their attention. At Christmas dinners, I'm not the shadow anymore. Mom's eyes well up, and she steps forward, reaching for my hand. We didn't know, Em. We should have. She trails off, and I see the guilt in her face, the realization of all the times. She turned away. I squeeze her hand gently, but I don't absolve her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I don't lash out, either. I've carried their dismissals for years, and I've learned they're not mine to hold anymore. Dad shifts, uncomfortable. You've done well, Emily, he says, almost like it's a confession. We're proud. It's the first time. He said it, and it lands like a stone in still water too late, but not without impact. I nod, my expression unchanged. Their pride isn't what I was after. As we walk back inside, Jessica links her arm through mine, a small gesture, but when I feel they're trying in their clumsy way to bridge the gap, I let them, but I don't bend. My strength isn't in their apologies or their sudden attention. It's in knowing who I am, with or without their gaze. 6 months have passed since Jessica's wedding, and the world has settled into a quieter rhythm. I'm back in Chicago, my days filled with meetings, strategy sessions, and the hum of a life I've built from the ground up. My condo feels like home now, its walls lined with books and a few framed photos, not of family, but of moments I've claimed for myself. A sunrise in Singapore, a team dinner after a big win, a quiet shot of me at my desk. Mid-thought, mid-triumph. Things with my family have shifted, though not in the dramatic way you might expect. There's no grand reconciliation, no tearful promises to rewrite the past. Instead, it's small gestures, tentative and imperfect. Jessica texts me now, not just about her life, but to ask about mine. Last week, she sent a photo of her new apartment, captioned, "You'd love the view, Em. Come visit." It's the first time she's invited me anywhere without an agenda. Mom calls more often, her questions less vague, more curious. "What's this project you're working on?" She asked last month, and I could hear her trying to listen. Dad sent a card for my birthday, not the generic kind, but one with a handwritten note. "You're doing big things, Emily. Keep it up." It's not everything, but it's something. I don't lean into these changes too hard. I've learned not to pin my worth on their attention. For years, I thought their recognition would fill the ache I carried, but I was wrong. That ache only eased when I stopped looking to them for permission to matter. My strength didn't come from their applause or their apologies. It came from the quiet choices I made every late night at the office, every risk I took, every time. I believed in myself when they didn't. That's what built me. I think about the wedding sometimes. The moment the manager said my name and the room turned to look. It wasn't about the money or the shock on their faces. It was about standing in my truth, unapologetic and whole. I didn't need to shout or point fingers to prove my place. I just needed to be there, undeniable, in a room that had always pushed me to the edges. I'm not saying it's all resolved. There are still moments when Mom's voice carries that old dismissal, or when Jessica forgets to ask about my day. But I don't carry those moments like I used to. They're not my burden anymore. I've learned that family isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, even when it's messy, and knowing when to walk away from what doesn't serve. To anyone watching this, anyone who's ever felt unseen, let me say this: your worth isn't in their eyes. It's in the work you do when no one's watching, the dreams you chase when no one believes in them. You don't need a spotlight to shine, you just need to keep building, keep growing, keep choosing yourself. One day, they might see you and it'll feel good for a moment. But the real victory? It's the one you've already won. The one that lives in the quiet strength of knowing who you are. I set my coffee down on my desk, the city skyline sparkling outside my window. There's a new project waiting, a new challenge to tackle. I'm not the girl by the trash can anymore. I'm Emily Harper, and I'm enough.